Hello, Robin Lane.
Hello, Steve Riccardo.
It's great to see you again. I had so much fun the last time you were on the show. Um, the last time we
We
we didn't
smoked.
smoke. It might
We
have been
didn't
better if
smoke,
we
but
did smoke.
it would have been. Well, it's too early in the morning to do that, but maybe not. Okay.
The last time we spoke, you just released excuse me, I can't talk. You're right, it is early.
That's okay.
Dirt Road to Heaven, which included a song that I love, Women Like That, because I always talk about that song, as well as a bunch of other well-crafted songs. Um, Before we get into your new single, Man Like You, and your upcoming show in Somerville, and I want to talk to you about Songbird Sings as well. I was just curious, do you remember when you first started writing songs?
Uh-huh. I totally remember. I always wanted to write songs. Well, once I met all these people that wrote songs and I loved their songs. I think it was a combination. Well, I'm not going to drop names. I hate myself when I do that. Even though, when you grow up in LA, that's the way it is.
Drop names, please. Everyone knows you played on the Neil Young record. It's no secret.
Yeah, I used to I did some of his songs that like the old Laughing Lady. Do you remember that
Oh
one?
yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Soul. In those days, like I'd go into a record company, go, "Hi, you want to sign me?" And I'd play Mr. Soul
Good one.
in a weird key and Laughing Lady and some other things. I hadn't started writing songs yet. And then they'd go, "Oh, we've already got a woman on this label, so that's the end of you." And then the phone would ring and they'd pick it up and I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be in the middle of playing and they'd pick it up anyway. So I always wanted to write songs. My father was a songwriter. Not that that impressed me too much because he was my dad. But I think when I heard Stephen Stills songs actually and Tim Hardin, and then I wanted to write, but I didn't know how. And then I got pregnant. I had a child, it was really young. And for some reason that put some kind of creativity inside of me. And I just sat down and started writing songs. And I'd write like, five in a day. And I didn't even have a tape recorder or any way of recording them, but would remember them all. Not like now.
Do you remember the first song that you wrote?
I could do if I thought enough. Yeah,
It's
I mean, I have a few of the songs that I wrote in the first few years that I was writing. I still have a couple of them, but the very first one, don't know. Maybe I could. Yeah.
My next question was gonna be, do you have a lot of unreleased songs that you've written over the years? Is there
Yeah.
like a huge amount? Have you recorded them, or are they all in a book, or
No, some are recorded and some are forgotten. Some are just gone with the wind. There's this guy. Do you know Pat Thomas,
Pat Thomas?
the writer? He's got books out, and he was gonna I was out in LA for a couple of years and he was going to put out all of my old songs. We never got around to that because he started working with Judy Sill and her stuff. Do you know Judy Sill?
Yeah, you mean he was gonna put them in a book?
No, he right. No, what else does he do? He does music related books and other things. No, he was going to actually put them out somehow. But
Release the music, you mean?
look him up, Pat Thomas, he's great.
Okay.
We never got around to that. Probably still would, but then he started working with some other women that had things out in the past. Well, Judy Sill, she's like genius. Do you know her?
I know that name, yes.
Yeah, look her up. Jesus was a cross maker. That's one of her songs. I don't think she was a Jesus follower or anything, but anyway, she's so he just started doing other things, and I came back east, so we weren't there. Yeah, what am I talking about?
Songs that you've written that have not come out. Is there a
Do
like
you want me to send
hundreds?
one? No, well, I suppose, but where are they?
Do you want me to? Yeah, you could send me a song that you wrote that you didn't release. Sure, that would be great.
In 2020, with COVID happening and you were trying to figure out what to do with your life, just sitting around, I put together a bunch of recorded, unreleased songs and put them in an album. Do you have that one? Instant album?
I don't think I do.
Oh, Steve, come on.
Is it on Bandcamp?
No.
Well, then how would I have it?
Okay, I don't know. Just all right, give me your we can
I'll
do it
give it
later.
to
Send me your stuff. Send me how I'll send you one of those albums anyway. I think you'll like it. There's some good stuff on it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
I
You
put
sent
it
me your
out.
last album in the mail when I gave you my address.
I did.
You did. You did. I think I ever I should send you some art. Would you like some art? Okay,
Yes.
I'm gonna send you some art, but we'll talk about that when we get off.
Okay.
Um, what I was getting at was I remember that you said in an interview, because I was going to ask you about your inspiration for writing. You said in an interview that you get a lot of inspiration from when things go wrong. No pun intended, but you did say that in an interview, and you have a song when things go wrong. So your inspiration, where did it come from, from writing?
I don't know. My inspiration.
Yeah, like what makes you want to write?
Um, there's a need, to to tell things, like to get things out of myself, whatever that may be. And then if I don't have anything pressing on me, like one time I wrote a song, Ashamed to Be White. It was before people were like even getting to that acknowledgement of our white privilege.
Yeah.
Um, and all sorts of stuff. But sometimes also, if I don't have an idea, I used to anyway with my band look things up in the newspapers and write something about, like, one of my songs that the band recorded was called "Caught in the Act," and it was from a Dear Miss Lonely Hearts column. So stuff like that. I just get inspiration or not, from various things.
I guess I asked the question the wrong way when I asked it because you said that you get a lot of inspiration from when things go wrong. And I thought that you meant that if something bad happened, like a breakup or
Yeah, sure.
whatever.
That usually does it. It used to do it. I don't know what does it now. I have to have something to say. I haven't been writing recently. Um,
It,
because
it,
here's what it is. I used to not be able to talk. I couldn't, I wasn't articulate, not that I am so much now, but I can run at the mouth now. And when I was younger, I had nothing to say except in the songs. So everything came out within the song. And then I like to say kind of a duh person. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley in LA. What can I say? I was a valley girl. But anyway.
I'm going to LA in October for 3 weeks. I'm very excited. I don't know if I told you, but I used to live in Studio City. I lived in Encino. I worked in Sherman Oaks.
Wow. So Pat Thomas works in Encino. I think he was in Sherman Oaks. Yeah, I lived in Encino mostly.
You did?
Oh yeah, that's where I grew up.
I lived on Rubio and Ventura Boulevard.
Like right on the corner.
Uh, it was you know how there's some estates as you go up a little longer and they have like, there
Oh,
was
yeah.
I lived in a guest house. It was really interesting because I was working I worked for labels out there and I met a record producer and we became friends. And then he was telling me that his mother-in-law had a guest house because I was in Marina Del Rey and I had to move because we just had to leave. I forget what happened. And so I met this woman and Mrs. P, we'll call her, that was her name. And her husband was a film producer and director. He did a couple of big films and it made him enough money where they had this little estate. He had passed away. and I looked at it. It was great. It was a little guest house. There was a pool and a jacuzzi. She was like in her 70s at the time, and she's like, "You can do whatever you want here, because we've done everything already. So you can't imagine. We can't imagine you'll possibly
You
do
lucked
anything."
out because
Yeah.
guest houses are the way to go.
This was in 1991, and guess how much I paid for rent to live in that guest
Rubio,
house?
Ventura, let's see. Oh, in 1991, $300.
I wish it was that low. 550, which I think was a pretty good deal, you know?
For guest house?
I
Yeah.
was working at A&M Records at the time, so I was making enough money to afford 550 a month. But there was a breakfast place right at the corner on Ventura, and I used,
Dupars?
excuse me?
Dupars?
Yes. Yeah, and there were celebrities in there all the time hanging
That's
out.
that's LA and Encino. Why, if I had enough money, I'm not sure that I would move to Encino because it's so hot.
Yeah, the valley's like what, 10 degrees hotter than the other side of
Yeah.
the hill?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was I don't know if the Jerry's Deli might not have been there when you were there, but they did put a new Jerry's Deli right around the corner from where I lived. So, between that place and Jerry's, and there was a million restaurants because you could Ventura Boulevard. I always tell people, everyone talks about all these other famous streets, but Ventura Boulevard is fantastic.
Yeah, I used to walk along with my girlfriends when we were young with short shorts and just walk along but there were no tall buildings. Can you imagine that?
No, but now
Well,
there is.
what?
Now there is. Every time I was just in LA like a year ago, and I stayed one night in Studio City, and I drove down there just because I like going to my own neighborhood. It's changed a lot. There's a lot of new buildings, and it's different.
Well, I
And that
grew
was
up
only
right
30
there.
years ago, you know?
That's where I grew up, Steve. Right on Route. My best friend lived on Rubio.
Really?
Yeah, I could tell you
Wow.
other stories, but I don't feel like it right now out in the public.
Across from Ventura from where I lived, you might know this, the Jackson House was like right on the
Yeah, it
other
was up on
side.
Havenhurst.
Yeah, right,
See Michael,
exactly.
Gelson's. I saw Michael Jackson all the time in Gelson's.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you just be walking along and then you'd see these shoes and these red leather pants and you kind of just go up and then like a little those what hit the jackets that he wore and there he was all dressed up.
When did you leave LA, the Valley for
Uh,
good?
about 75.
Oh wow, it must have been amazing out there back then. Wow.
I wanted to get away.
See, now it's really crowded and a million, there's a lot more people there. I can only imagine what LA was like in the 70s. It must have been amazing.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess. It was amazing. The valley, it was amazing growing up there. Um, when I grew up because it was rural. There's no, Balboa Park and all that.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
like there was nothing there but fields, and I took care of these horses, and I'd ride over there and up to Sepulveda Dam, and there was even quicksand, and now it's all pristine lakes and stuff.
You're in Western Mass now, right?
Mhm.
It's nice out there, though. It's very mellow.
It's yeah,
No?
no, no, everything's mellow, so you can almost get mellow just because you're here. If your mind isn't active. I have an active brain. I'm trying to get it to be less active, kind of
I,
just,
I, I,
flow.
I've gone completely off the track, but that's typical for me. So have you played a lot in the last year or so? Played gigs?
Somewhat, somewhat. Right now I'm playing with a new band and I think we're quite good for what we do. John Sands, do you know him?
No. Have you,
Drummer. Anyway, it's a good band and we've been playing. Where did we play? I don't know, various places, in little places up here.
do you rehearse a lot with the band?
No, we're going to rehearse though tomorrow. because of that show that we have, and I have to learn how to sing my own song. I
Yeah,
have to, I have to learn how to sing Man Like You because it's, it doesn't seem complicated, but it kind of is because just the way we recorded it. So I have to, we have to rehearse it. Nobody in the band has played it yet.
was that song about a specific man?
No, it's just made up. Well, okay, that's how I get my inspiration. I just make it up. Now, some people that I know have real life experiences and they write about those things that have happened to them and their relationships, and they're really good at it. And I'm not sure how good I am at that. I have to make things up.
The show that you mentioned is at the Weir House 11. I don't, it's a
The
new
Weird
venue.
House. The Weird House.
The Weird House? 11. It's going to be weird when you're there, that's for sure.
I was just told I wasn't weird.
Well, I'm not sure
Whatever.
about that, but I say this in the kindest way possible.
I know. I know.
It's in Union Square in Somerville. Talk about places that have changed. It's like an unrecognizable neighborhood. Now, part of the proceeds are going to for this show, which is here. I've got the line. Let me talk about this show for a minute. It's called Evolution, and there's a ton of people playing at this. You're the. It's 2 nights. I don't know if you're playing the first night or the second night because they haven't. You're playing the first night. But Adam Sherman, you might know him.
I might
He's
know him.
Do you know Adam Sherman from
Yes.
Private Lightning? They were around when the Chartbusters were around,
Adam
right?
Sherman is one of the most amazing songwriters I've ever met.
Great guy too.
Great guy, so nice. And he write his songs. You should hear them all.
Oh, I do. He was on the show. I love Adam. He's really good. He's got a great voice too.
Great voice. He yeah. I wish I could be articulate like he is, but I just whatever. You have to sort of accept who you are in this world. He's yeah, I'm very into his music.
Be kind of cool if you and him did something together.
Well, gee whiz,
That
Steve.
that would be
Come
nice.
up with that idea.
Now the whole world's got the idea. So maybe
They did.
Adam will. Yeah.
Where did you get that idea from?
Have you ever done something with him together?
We're doing something right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
You're playing together?
we're learning each other's songs.
Well, I did not know that. Okay. I feel like, wow, wow. Well, that's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to hear that.
Hmm. Well,
Uh,
we're starting out with house concerts. In fact, we'll invite you to, where do you live? Up in the North Shore?
I'm outside of Worcester.
Wista? Oh,
Yeah,
we're doing one, the very first one. You could come to that. It's in what's the town next to Worcester going towards Boston? Starts with an S.
Shrewsbury.
That's it.
How did I know it was Shrewsbury?
I don't know. How did you know I was getting together with Adam Sherman?
I don't know. I go to the Whole Foods in Shrewsbury, so that's why I know where it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I've
It's
been
on
wanting
August 3rd, but that'll
August
be
3rd.
our first time. And, he's professional and I'm kind of professional. So I'm learning his songs and
So do you think
we'll
that
see what happens.
do you think the two of you will play a song together at the Evolution show?
Well, actually, he is stepping up onto the stage with my band to play on Man Like You because we need a couple guitars on that. And there's no way that I can play guitar and remember how to sing it too.
He's
So
playing
yeah,
in the Nervous Eaters these days too. You know that, right?
I know that.
Speaking of old Boston bands, Fred Pinot from the Atlantics is on this show.
Hmm. Yep.
Smitty Smith, he's a Detroit guy, but he's really good. Excellent
I lived in
drummer.
Detroit.
You did?
Hmm. With my grandmother
Right in the city?
in it was called Sherwood Forest. Yeah, it was near Livernois and 8 Mile Road.
Wow.
It was not, and I went to school there too,
You did.
elementary school. Oh my God. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
Only
you were
place
in the valley and you moved to Detroit for a
I
while?
didn't move. I was sent to live with my grandmother because I was a bad child.
I don't believe that, Robin.
Well, I'm not going to start talking about it here.
Well, you
Yeah.
hung around with Neil Young and Stephen Stills. I mean, how good can you possibly be, right?
That was later. That was later.
Oh, you were bad when you were
And I
really
was
young.
shy. Yeah, I my favorite movie was The Bad Seed.
Okay. Um, all right. Let's see what's the show. The show. There's a bunch of other bands playing too, but it's a really good lineup and it looks good. Um,
Yeah, Rock
so
Garden is doing some cool stuff with a lot of bands. We have to help them out somehow, the Cosmos or people or something. Because they're just wanting to make or help a lot of bands, you know, get out there. Kind of like Justine was doing.
I was going to ask you about Justine because very sad that she's no longer with us.
Yeah, it is really sad. She was great. Todd's great too, though, Todd and Lisa. So we hope for the best.
Um, I'm really fascinated to talk about Songbird Sings. Part of the proceeds from this event is going to receiving trauma one song at a time. Now, can you tell my listeners
Healing? No, healing from trauma.
healing? Why did I write
Healing?
receiving?
I don't know.
Wow, that's a typo, isn't it? Okay,
Rece-
sorry about that.
like anyway, it's healing from trauma, one song at a time.
My apologies. I don't know. I can't type. Um, can you tell us about this organization? You started it, right?
Yeah, I did. I started it with Carla DeSantis, who's now Carla Black. She had a magazine out called Rocker Girl.
Yeah, Carla's cool.
Carla, you know Carla?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we somehow found each other and we decided to start this nonprofit because I've been working with all these women survivors of childhood abuse and domestic violence. And I was helping them tell their story in song format. And then I'd put it into a song and then I'd record the songs. And then the people in the group would leave with a CD of the songs, which kind of helps them process what happened to them outside of themselves. It releases it into music, you know. We all know how music is so healing, and to write a song and then to hear it later, and if you've sung on it, even if they didn't have good voices, I would always have them be part of it, or somebody else in the group would sing their song. I can send you an album of those songs too if you'd
That
like.
is fascinating. So they would come in, tell you their story, and you would write a song about it.
Well, actually, the stories came about as the songs were written. So, in a lot of cases, people that have experienced trauma like that, some really severe trauma, don't believe that it's actually happened to them. There's like a disconnect, like this happened, but because some stuff happened to me too. And I just kind of, did that really happen? So, when you're in a group of people and you're talking, you start telling your story, or you're writing poetry, or you're writing lyrics, and then you're sharing those lyrics. And I would take the lyrics and put them into a song. If they didn't have an idea of what kind of a song they wanted, I would just, start playing a country song or a punk song or a jazz song or whatever. And then the song would somehow come to be. And then everybody would be talking about what had happened to them because of the lyrics. People were, getting introduced to these terrible stories. And and then later when they heard the music and were part of the music and got to record, like that, the joy that comes out of that, it was palpable. You can't believe what I witnessed. And some of the stories were just so horrendous. So it went from childhood abuse to domestic violence to really terrible things. And then I started working with trafficked young women in Boston that had been trafficked, some of them kidnapped and put into prostitution, kidnapped right off the streets. I swear to God, this is like, so it wasn't happening in Romania, although it is happening there, but with our own young women and men too. And then somehow it morphed into veterans. Then I started working with vets, that been in Iraq, or some older guys too that had been in Vietnam. And everybody was just so happy doing the music. But when they came in there first, they were like, what's going to happen? They were like really scared. I worked in a prison in Springfield, and they just didn't understand at first, but then they were just overjoyed to be writing songs and then performing them in front of the prison population. Like the guys, probably some of those guys that had gotten them in there in the first place,
Wow.
and they got a standing ovation a few times from these guys with their, the pants down below the butt, the kind of show me bitches, and then, so they didn't want to look at them. And I had them look at me, and then standing ovations, because the songs are so real. They're so real,
That
Steve.
is fantastic that you do this.
Well,
Wow.
I haven't done it in a while. I went to California. I had to do something out there, which was traumatic. And that kind of severed my connection with a lot of the places where I'd done the workshops, and also gathering the funding, because I never charge. I write grants, but I haven't done that in a while. And then COVID came, so that stopped a lot of people getting together, as we know.
So this is something that's been going on for a while.
I started it when I moved out to Western Mass. I didn't have a nonprofit then, but I walked into a place in Turner's Falls. Do you know where that is?
Yeah, it's kind of the lower corner, right, of
Well,
Massachusetts.
lower corner. I don't.
Low,
It's just
um,
a little town, on the Connecticut. That's
yeah,
the.
that's what I call the lower
Oh,
corner.
okay.
Yeah.
And they were doing writing workshops, and they asked me if I wanted to join, and I did. That was fun. And then they found out I was a songwriter, and they asked me if I would help them or teach them how to write songs. And I'd never done that before, really.
Wow.
That was the beginning. I'd worked with youth. Youth. That's what I did. Yeah, youth at risk. Forget about that.
Turner Falls, Massachusetts.
Turner's Falls. But now it's everywhere. Now I'm in Shelburne Falls. So if any of your listeners out there are fabulously wealthy and they'd like to help support these programs, that would be great. Really great.
There's a website for
Mhm.
Songbird Sings. Is it songbirdSings.com?
.org.
.org.
Yeah,
SongbirdSings.org.
correct.
Fantastic. And they're going to try and raise some money for you at the Warehouse 11 show. So that the Weird House 11 show, as you like to call it,
Well, the weird house, because there's some
Wh-
weirdos showing up,
which I predicted that you and Adam Sherman would be playing together before I even knew you were. So it's pretty good on my part, I think.
Yes.
So what else, Robin?
Um, she whiz. Well, I'm getting ready right this second after I get off with you to go see Adam Sherman at the Plow and Stars. But you won't be broadcasting this until later in the week. But he does a residency
I
there.
do. I know. I've got to get to one of those one of these days.
Yeah, come today,
I
4 to 6.
I wish I could come today. I'm an hour away and I don't think so. I was at a show all afternoon in Boston yesterday.
Oh,
Uh,
what was that?
there was a band from almost your era playing, the Dogmatics, who have been around for like
It's my
40 years.
my era. This is my era.
Your Chartbusters era.
Oh,
Sorry,
that.
I should have said that.
Oh, no, no, no. It's okay. I understand. The Dogmatics. Yeah,
Yeah, you must remember them.
I did. I did.
And Diablo Gatto played. They're like a psychobilly band. They were really good.
Ooh, that's neat. Are
Oh,
they
Linda Viens. You must know. Well, some
Viens?
people call her Vanes, but she told me it's
Linda
Viens.
Viens. Viens.
Yeah,
Linda
girl.
Viens. She's the best.
Yeah,
She's
I
in
think.
that band.
Yeah, she's in Girl with a Hawk.
I know that.
Yeah,
But
that's who played.
Diablo. Oh, you were
Girl
talking.
with the Hawk, then the Dogmatics, then Diablo Gatto.
Okay.
Jesse Mayer is the drummer of Diablo Gatto. Do you know Jesse?
I don't know.
Longtime Boston drummer. Good guy.
I don't
Yeah.
remember names.
Do you
Even
remember my name?
Steev Riccardo. And it's right there. Steev
You
Riccardo.
cheated. You cheated.
You're
You looked at the screen.
you're
It's okay. I know you
You're the
remember me.
Rico guy.
Well,
Nice.
thank you.
Great.
Thank you for taking this time because it's a Sunday morning to talk to me again. And you're always welcome again and again and again. That
We can have
August,
more fun talking. I just, sometimes don't want things that I've said a million times out in the public arena. And then again, sometimes I do.
do you remember what you said at the end of our conversation last time?
Nine.
It got out into the public. It had something to do with,
Smoking pot.
yes.
Should I
You-
not say that?
Oh, no, you can say it. I'm going to probably be doing that myself shortly. So,
But
hey, it's legal in Massachusetts.
it's just so nice. I never used to do it. Not much. It didn't suit me, but now it really suits me.
It suits you well.
Is that what we were talking about at the end of the
At
last?
yes, we were at the end. We
What were
were.
we what were we talking about?
What were
Yeah.
we talking about for the rest of the show? We talked
I
about
hope
your
you
whole
cut
career.
this all out. Are you going to edit this? Because
No,
even
you gave me the whole scoop about how you met Neil Young and everything last time. That was really
oh
good.
yeah, because the I don't know because well lived. I don't know if it's called living. Yeah, I stayed in a house on Laurel Canyon on right on Laurel Canyon that the Rockets, this band, first
Yeah,
garage band that I ever heard, who later became Crazy Horse, and they sold pot. Yeah, I told you tons of
you
stories on that.
did. When I go to LA, every time I go, I purposely drive,
Through
you
Laurel
know,
Canyon.
Laurel Canyon and Coldwater Canyon.
Uh-huh.
And then I got Mulholland.
Coldwater Canyon is crazy. It's like I mean, we went over the hill all the time because my aunt and uncle lived in Beverly Hills and Coldwater Canyon and Benedict Canyon, and they were just regular roads to me. But now, later, like when I was there just a couple of years ago, those are crazy roads.
You know what
All
my favorite is? Topanga Canyon, because when you come down over the hill and see the ocean, it's
uh-huh.
like the greatest sight that you could ever see in your life. And I just
Did you go through
purposely
some of those other canyons around there, like past Topanga Canyon
Malibu
and
Canyon.
all that?
Yeah, I've been on Malibu Canyon, Topanga, Coldwater, Benedict, all of them.
All different. They're crazy, crazy roads with crazy people
I know
driving.
when I was younger, I didn't think much, but now when I drive out there, I'm like, holy shit, this
I
is
used to
like,
drive all of my friends. We drove on Mulholland Drive all the time. Like just like crazy on Mulholland Drive and then through the canyons, not ever thinking about how dangerous those roads could
Dead
be.
Man's Curve.
That's on Sunset.
Oh, that's Sunset?
Mhm.
I always thought Dead Man's Curve was on Mulholland. Why did I think that? Where is Dead Man's Curve on Sunset?
It's it's between It's around Beverly Glen and
Yeah, I've
Bel Air.
driven by there many times. I didn't know. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, people fly on that road. That's probably why it's the dead man's curve because people
And
drive
then
very.
they got into he got into an accident, you know, Jan of Jan.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now it's coming back to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mental block. I had the wrong road.
Sometimes like I just can't believe I'm talking about this stuff and it's so long ago, but it's very present in my mind. And yet, wow.
I seem to remember more about the being in LA in the 80s and 90s than I do about what I did last week. You know, I mean, it's just
That's
very
true.
prevalent in my mind because I feel like I grew up there, you know. I went there when I was 22 and then all of a
Is
sudden,
that when you worked at A&M?
no, I started at a label called Enigma Records,
Oh
an
yeah.
independent label. That was my first job. And then I worked for a bunch of independents before I got to A&M. That took a while. Um, you know, it's never going to be like that again. I
David
mean,
Anderley.
yeah, I knew David. I
What a
actually,
nice guy.
wow, you knew David Anderley, huh? Wow,
Yeah,
he passed away a few years
I
ago.
know. I know.
You know, when I went in his, I got to tell you this story. I went in his office because Brian Huttenhauer, an A&R guy, hired me. My first job was as an A&R consultant. And he said, you got to go to see my boss and he's going to approve you. So I go to David Anderley's office. I walk in, there's a huge picture of him and Nico all hugging and stuff. And I'm sitting there talking to him. And then I said, I have to ask you something I was curious about. I know you worked with the Beach Boys. Did you ever meet Charles Manson? And he told me the greatest story about how Charlie came up into his office and played music for him, and he thought the guy was out of his mind. It was just a fantastic story because I didn't know if he met Manson or not, and he did because Dennis Wilson and Manson were like had a thing for a little while.
I
But
met the Manson family in the woods in Big Sur, but not him. Not the guy. Yeah.
wow, so what was that all about?
I don't I stories. Let's do another time with the stories. I have one story after the next.
Wow.
Why I hitchhiked from LA to Big Sur to go camping by myself.
And you
Smart,
met and
huh?
you met the Manson family girls.
There were guys and girls. I was camping by myself, and then these kids were going through, and then I was just chatting with them, and they were talking about this guy named Charlie that they loved and revered. And so I hung out with them because they started telling me about bear stories and these women that had been mauled by bears. Of course, not in Big Sur, but nonetheless. And then later, when that happened, I also knew, God, I really shouldn't be telling these stories. Okay. Bobby Buselet. Do you know who that is?
Yeah. Wow. You knew him? Wow.
We called him Bummer Bob, but he was also known as Cupid.
Oh, they all have several names?
Yeah, well, he was called Cupid. Anyway, I'm not going to tell these stories.
Well, okay, you don't
I'll tell
have
them
to.
to you sometime,
We
another
can,
show, and I could just tell one story after the next, and then you can decide what you would put on.
so we're gonna do a whole Manson family episode. Is that
It's
what we're
not just
saying?
Manson family; it's the whole genre of that era and the things that I, I you know, I
Before
guess
you
I'm a
go,
part
before you go, just tell me one thing you remember about David Anderley.
of, that he liked me.
He did liked?
He liked me. He was a really nice guy, and not everybody was nice in the music business, and he was comforting, and he remembered me later too when I had my band. So that was nice. But I will send you a picture of me with David Anderley in the photo and some other people.
Wow. For people listening, David Anderley was the head of A&R at A&M Records, and during a really great period, Herb Albert hired him to run the A&R department, which is pretty impressive job to have.
Where he came from, like how I met him even.
I think Elektra, because he worked with the Beach Boys and the Doors.
Okay, that's how,
Yeah.
because he was friends with my friend Terry Sachin, who worked with the Beach Boys. He was their road manager. And Terry knew everybody. And so I met a lot of people through him, including David Andrew and some other things.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the coolest people I ever met in the music industry. And I got a Glenn Johns book, and there's a whole chapter about David Annerly in Glenn Johns' book,
Wow.
which
Yeah.
I blew my mind.
He was totally nice. There were some really nice salt of the earth people in the music business then. Not everybody, but well, you know.
There were a few good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Well, you
Robin,
survived.
excuse me?
You survived.
I did. I did survive. I got a few wounds, but I survived.
Oh, the wounds will make you stronger and prettier.
True. Oh, I don't know about pretty, but
That's what
good.
Jackie Shannon said.
Of course, it's a quote.
Well, it's in her song.
Yes.
Don't doubt yourself, babe. Remember that one?
Yes. Robin, thank you.
This is
Uh,
old brew.
July 26th, the Weird House 11 in Union Square, Somerville. I'm going to call it Weird
It's called the,
House.
but okay, just for anybody that doesn't know, it's the warehouse. It's in Union Square. And
You,
I think we're gonna have fun that night.
yeah,
I
you
hope.
you called it the Weird House
I
before
know,
I did. So
I know. I'm guilty.
thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Steve. Rico, go forward.
Oh boy. I can't even figure out how to. I see you've got me completely discombobulated.
Oh my God. I could launch into other things now.
Thanks, Robin.
Oh my gosh. Okay.